The Angel in Leather. A woman lay dying on a desert road, beaten and abandoned by the man who claimed to love her. Then a Hell's Angel appeared, and what he did next didn't just save her life, it exposed a truth that would shake an entire city. But no one imagined what would come next. If you believe in standing up for those who can't defend themselves, please like this video and comment below. Your support helps us share stories of courage and redemption. Sarah Mitchell knew she was going to die on this road. The Nevada desert stretched endlessly in every direction, the afternoon sun beating down on the cracked asphalt. Blood pooled beneath her from the gash in her head. Each breath felt like knives in her ribs, broken probably 3 or 4. Her left eye was swollen shut. Her lip was split. She'd tried to crawl toward the road, thinking maybe a car would pass. But after 10 feet, the pain overwhelmed her and she collapsed. Now she lay in the dirt 20 feet from the highway, invisible to anyone driving past. This is how it ends, Sarah thought. 32 years old, dead on a roadside because she'd finally threatened to leave Brandon, because she'd finally said she was going to tell someone about what he'd been doing to her for 5 years. Brandon Cole, decorated police officer, pillar of the Reno community. The man everyone loved, the man who came home and beat her until she couldn't recognize herself. The fight had started in the car. Sarah had packed a bag, taken money from their joint account, and gotten in her car to drive to her sister's in California. Brandon had followed her, forced her off the road 30 miles outside Reno, dragged her from the vehicle, and beaten her with methodical rage. When she'd stopped fighting back, he'd kicked her once more, thrown her phone into the desert, and driven away. That was maybe 2 hours ago. Time had become fluid, measured only in waves of pain, and the gradual realization that she was dying. She thought about her sister Emily, who'd begged her to leave Brandon years ago. She thought about how Brandon would report her missing, play the concerned boyfriend, and probably get away with it. Sarah closed her good eye and waited for darkness. Then she heard it, the distant rumble of a motorcycle engine, growing louder, closer. Hope flickered briefly before Sarah crushed it. What were the odds someone would see her? She was off the road, partially hidden by brush. The engine sound grew deafening, then suddenly cut off, footsteps crunching on gravel, running. "Jesus Christ," a male voice said. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" Sarah forced her good eye open. A man knelt beside her, huge, maybe 6'3", heavily tattooed arms, wearing a black leather vest. The vest had patches, Hell's Angels, Reno chapter, Reaper, stitched above the heart. Sarah's brain registered, biker, dangerous. But her body registered, help. Finally, someone. "I hear you," Sarah managed. "Don't try to move. I'm calling 911. Reaper pulled out a phone. "Yeah, I need an ambulance on Highway 50, about 30 miles east of Reno. Woman, early 30s, severe injuries. Looks like assault. She's conscious, but in bad shape." He knelt closer, his expression shifting from shock to controlled fury. "Who did this to you?" "Boyfriend," Sarah whispered. "Left me here." "Is he coming back?" "Don't know." Reaper's jaw tightened. "What's your name?" "Sarah Mitchell." "Sarah, I'm Jackson. People call me Reaper. I know I look scary, but I promise you're safe now. I'm not going anywhere until the ambulance gets here." Sarah wanted to argue, to explain that telling wouldn't matter, because Brandon was a cop, but she didn't have the energy. She just nodded. Reaper carefully positioned himself to shade Sarah from the sun. He pulled a bandana from his pocket and pressed it against the bleeding wound on her head. "Ambulance is 20 minutes out. Stay with me, Sarah. Keep talking." "Why'd you stop?" Sarah asked. "Most people wouldn't." Reaper's expression darkened. "I had a sister, Hannah. 10 years ago, her boyfriend beat her to death and left her in an alley. Nobody found her for 3 days. I swore after that, if I ever saw someone who needed help, I'd stop. Every time." "I'm sorry," Sarah whispered, "about your sister." "Me too. But she's why I'm here now. She's why you're not dying alone." Sarah felt tears leak from her good eye. This stranger was the first person in 5 years who'd truly helped her. "He's a cop," Sarah said suddenly. "Brandon. He's a police officer. That's why I never reported it. Who do you report police to? He has friends in the department. He has power. He'll say I'm lying. Reaper's expression went from fury to calculation. You let me worry about that. Right now you focus on staying alive. The rest we'll handle. We? My club. The Hells Angels don't tolerate men who hurt women. We've got resources, we've got connections, and we've got a code. Protect the vulnerable. You're vulnerable right now. That makes you our business. Sarah wanted to argue, but consciousness was slipping. Stay with me, Sarah, Reaper said urgently. Talk to me. Tell me about your sister. Emily, Sarah managed. She's in Sacramento. She's been begging me to leave him for years. I finally did. Today. It got you alive. That's what matters. You're alive, and you're going to stay alive. I promise. The ambulance arrived in 18 minutes. Paramedics swarmed, asking questions, starting IVs, stabilizing her. Reaper stepped back but didn't leave, giving statements to the state trooper who'd arrived. As they loaded Sarah into the ambulance, she caught Reaper's eye. Thank you, she mouthed. He nodded once, then pulled out his phone, already making calls as the ambulance pulled away. Sarah woke in a hospital room. She was alive. That was the first surprise. The second was the flowers filling every surface. The third was the man sleeping in the chair beside her bed. Reaper, still in his leather vest. Sarah tried to sit up and gasped. Immediately, Reaper was awake. Don't move. You've got broken ribs, a concussion, fractured arm, and about 40 stitches. You're held together by medical tape and stubbornness. How long have I been here? 36 hours. You had surgery on your arm. They were worried about internal bleeding, but everything checked out. Why are you here? Because you don't have anyone else here. Your sister's on her way from Sacramento, but until she arrives, you shouldn't be alone. And because I wanted to be here when the cops came. As if summoned, there was a knock. 2 men in suits entered. Detectives. Both looked uncomfortable when they saw Reaper. Ms. Mitchell, I'm Detective Rodriguez. This is Detective Park. We need to ask you questions about your assault. Ask away, Sarah said. Can we speak privately? Rodriguez glanced at Reaper. He stays, Sarah said firmly. He saved my life. He gets to hear this. The detectives exchanged looks but nodded. For the next hour, Sarah told her story. 5 years with Brandon Cole, the escalating violence, the isolation tactics, the times she'd tried to get help and been dismissed. She told them about the final fight, about Brandon forcing her off the road, about being beaten and abandoned. That's a serious accusation, Park said carefully. Officer Cole is a decorated member of the Reno PD. I know exactly who he is, Sarah said, and I know exactly what he'll say, that I'm mentally unstable, that I'm lying. He's been building that narrative for 5 years, but I'm not. He is, and he tried to kill me. Rodriguez wrote everything down. We'll need medical records, any evidence of previous abuse. I have photos, Sarah said, on a cloud account he doesn't know about. Every time he hurt me, I'd take pictures. I have 5 years of documentation. The detectives perked up. That's good. Can you give us access? Sarah provided her login information. As the detectives prepared to leave, Reaper spoke. What happens next to Cole? We'll investigate. Interview him. Look at the evidence. If there's probable cause, we'll make an arrest. When? Reaper pressed. These things take time. How much time? Because right now Cole's walking around free. What's stopping him from coming after her again? Rodriguez hesitated. We can request protection. From who? His colleagues? The same people who ignored every report Sarah tried to make? Reaper stood. No disrespect, but Sarah needs better protection. My club's got eyes on her 24/7 until Cole's behind bars. After the detectives left, Sarah looked at Reaper. You don't have to do this. It's not enough. Not until you're actually safe. Reaper sat back down. My club's already on it. We've got members watching your house, Cole's house, the police station. We're building a case alongside the cops. Why? Sarah asked. You don't know me. I know enough. I know you're a survivor. I know you deserve justice. And I know if someone had helped Hannah the way I'm helping you, she'd still be alive. I can't save her. But I can save you. Let me." Sarah felt tears come. "Okay," she whispered. Over the next week, Sarah remained in the hospital. Emily arrived from Sacramento and barely left her side. The detectives returned multiple times, building their case. They'd reviewed Sarah's photos, 5 years of documentation showing clear patterns of abuse. They'd interviewed hospital staff. They'd found previous reports Sarah had filed that had been dismissed, and then they found others. 3 other women who dated Brandon Cole before Sarah. All 3 had restraining orders against him. All 3 had reported violence. All 3 had been dismissed or intimidated into dropping charges. "There's a pattern," Rodriguez told Sarah. "And with your evidence plus their testimony, we have enough for an arrest warrant." "When?" Sarah asked. "Today. We're picking him up this afternoon." Brandon Cole was arrested at the police station that evening, charged with attempted murder, aggravated assault, witness tampering. The arrest made local news. The coverage was sensational and divided. Sarah watched from her hospital bed, Reaper beside her, Emily holding her hand. "This isn't over," Sarah said. "He'll make bail." "Let him try," Reaper said. "We're ready." Brandon Cole made bail 3 days later, posted by fellow officers who believed in his innocence. The judge issued a restraining order. No contact with Sarah, stay 500 feet away. But everyone knew restraining orders were just paper. Sarah was discharged from the hospital into Emily's custody. They couldn't go back to the house Sarah had shared with Brandon, too dangerous. Emily's apartment in Sacramento was an option, but it meant leaving Reno. "Stay here," Reaper offered. "The club has a safe house. It's secure, protected, and Cole won't find it." "I can't ask that." "You're not asking, we're offering. Where else can you go where you'll actually be safe? Our safe house? That's fortress-level security with 40 bikers who've sworn to protect you." Sarah looked at Emily, who nodded. "He's right. Until the trial, you need real protection." Now, the safe house was a 2-bedroom apartment above a bar the Hells Angels owned. It had reinforced doors, security cameras, and round-the-clock protection. Sarah and Emily moved in, and for the first time in years, Sarah felt safe enough to sleep. The case moved forward. Brandon's lawyers tried everything, attacking Sarah's credibility, suggesting she was mentally unstable, claiming the photos were from other incidents. But the prosecution had too much evidence: medical records, witness statements from the other 3 women, testimony from Sarah's colleagues. The trial began 4 months after the assault. Sarah testified for 3 days, recounting 5 years of abuse. Brandon's lawyers were brutal, trying to break her on cross-examination, but Sarah held firm. "Did you love him?" the defense attorney asked. "I thought I did, until I realized love doesn't leave you bleeding on the side of the road." The courtroom was packed every day. Brandon's supporters sat on one side. On the other, Emily, Sarah's colleagues, the 3 other women who'd survived Brandon, and filling the back rows, 20 Hells Angels members, silent and imposing. Reaper attended every day, taking notes, watching. During breaks, he'd check on Sarah, make sure she had water, remind her to breathe. "You're doing great," he'd say. "You're stronger than he ever told you." The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, their verdict was unanimous, guilty on all counts. Brandon Cole was sentenced to 25 years without possibility of parole. Sarah broke down when the verdict was read, relief so overwhelming it physically hurt. Emily held her as she sobbed, 5 years of terror finally releasing. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Sarah had prepared a statement. "For 5 years, I believed I was trapped. I believed no one would help me. I was wrong. To anyone suffering in silence, there is help. There are people who will believe you. There are people who will fight for you. Don't give up. You deserve to be safe. You deserve justice." Reaper stood behind her, visible but quiet. After the reporters left, Sarah turned to him. "I don't know how to thank you. You saved my life. You got me justice." Reaper shook his head. "You saved yourself by leaving, by surviving, by testifying. I just made sure you had backup. Still, thank you for seeing me, for stopping, for caring." "Always," Reaper said. "That's the code. We protect people who need protecting." Sarah hugged him. this huge, intimidating biker who'd turned out to be the gentlest person she'd met. "You're a good man, Jackson Stone." "Working on it," Reaper said. Every day. 6 months after the trial, Sarah had rebuilt her life. She'd moved to Sacramento near Emily, gotten a job at a hospital, started therapy. She'd joined a support group for domestic violence survivors and began volunteering. She stayed in touch with Reaper, who'd check in monthly. "You know what's funny?" Sarah told him during one call. "Before that day, I would have crossed the street if I saw someone like you. Big biker, scary looking. I would have assumed you were dangerous." "Most people do," Reaper said, "but you're not. You're the opposite. You're literally the person who saved my life when everyone else drove past." Sometimes the scariest-looking people are the safest ones. Appearances lie. Actions tell the truth. "I'll remember that," Sarah promised. A year after the assault, Sarah spoke at a domestic violence awareness event. She told her story and said, "An angel appeared on that road. He didn't look like an angel. He looked like someone people cross the street to avoid, but he stopped when no one else did. He stayed when he could have left. He fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself, and he taught me that help can come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes angels wear leather and ride Harleys." The audience gave her a standing ovation. And in the back row, wearing his Hell's Angels vest, Reaper watched with quiet pride. He'd kept his promise to Hannah. No one else would die alone on a roadside, not on his watch, not ever again. 2 years after the trial, Sarah's life had transformed completely. She'd completed her nursing degree specialization in trauma care and now worked at Sacramento General Hospital's emergency department. She'd published an article in a medical journal about recognizing domestic violence in patients. She'd become a certified counselor for abuse survivors. And she'd started a foundation, Hannah's Hope, named after Reaper's sister, that provided resources and support for women escaping violent relationships. The foundation operated out of a small office in downtown Sacramento, funded by donations and grants. Sarah ran it with 3 other survivors she'd met through support groups. They offered emergency housing assistance, legal referrals, counseling services, and most importantly, a 24/7 hotline staffed by people who understood what it meant to be trapped. Emily had been instrumental in getting the foundation off the ground, using her marketing background to build awareness and attract donors. "You're doing what you were meant to do," Emily told Sarah during one of their weekly dinners, "turning your trauma into something that helps others. Mum and Dad would be so proud." Their parents had died in a car accident when Sarah was 25, 3 years before she'd met Brandon. Sometimes Sarah wondered if their deaths had made her vulnerable, grieving, lonely, desperate for connection, and Brandon had exploited that vulnerability. But her therapist reminded her that abusers were experts at identifying and manipulating weakness. It wasn't Sarah's fault. It had never been Sarah's fault. Reaper remained a constant presence in Sarah's life, though their relationship had evolved into genuine friendship. He'd visit Sacramento every few months, checking on the foundation, offering support, connecting Sarah with other Hells Angels chapters who wanted to partner on similar initiatives. The club had embraced Hannah's Hope, making it an official charity they supported through fundraising rides and events. "You've built something incredible," Reaper told Sarah during one visit, touring the foundation's new, larger office space. "Hannah would love this. She always wanted to help people. She just never got the chance." "She's helping people now," Sarah said. "Through you, through this. Her story matters. Her death wasn't meaningless." "No," Reaper agreed quietly. "It wasn't." That evening, Sarah invited Reaper to speak at a foundation fundraiser. He was reluctant. Public speaking wasn't his thing, but Sarah convinced him. "People need to hear from you. They need to understand that help comes from unexpected places, that the scary biker might be the one who saves your life." The fundraiser was held at a hotel ballroom, attended by 200 people, survivors, advocates, donors, community leaders. Sarah spoke first, telling her story, the abbreviated public version that hit the key points without re-traumatizing herself. Then she introduced Reaper. He walked to the podium in his Hell's Angels vest, looking every bit as intimidating as he had that day on the desert road. The audience shifted uncomfortably. But when Reaper spoke, his voice was steady and sincere. "My name is Jackson Stone. Most people call me Reaper. I'm vice president of the Hells Angels Reno chapter, and 2 years ago I found Sarah Mitchell bleeding to death on Highway 50. I almost didn't stop. I was in a hurry, had somewhere to be, but something made me look closer. And when I saw her lying there, I saw my sister Hannah. He told Hannah's story, how she'd been killed by her boyfriend, how nobody had helped her, how he'd carried that guilt for a decade. He told them about the code his club lived by: protect the vulnerable, stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves, never walk past someone who needs help. People are scared of us, Reaper said. I get it. We look rough. We're loud. We don't fit the mold of what good people are supposed to look like. But I'm here to tell you, don't judge help by how it's packaged. Sarah was dying that day. She needed someone to stop. She needed someone to care. It didn't matter that I was a biker. It mattered that I was there. He looked directly at the audience. If you see someone suffering, don't walk past because you're uncomfortable, or because helping is inconvenient, or because you're not sure what to do. Stop. Ask. Care. That's all Sarah needed. That's all any survivor needs. Someone willing to see them. The audience erupted in applause. Several people were crying. And Sarah, watching from the side of the stage, felt overwhelming gratitude for this unlikely friendship that had saved her life and given her purpose. After the event, a young woman approached Reaper nervously. She was maybe 22, with a fresh bruise on her cheek, poorly covered with makeup. I need help, she whispered. My boyfriend. He's going to kill me. I know he is. I've tried to leave, but I don't know where to go. Can you? Can you help me? Reaper looked at Sarah, who immediately stepped forward. Yes, we can help you. Come with me. They took the young woman, her name was Jessica, to the Foundation's emergency housing partner. They got her medical attention for her injuries. They connected her with a lawyer. They filed a restraining order, and they made sure she understood. She wasn't alone anymore. This is what we do, Sarah told Jessica. We show up. We believe you. We help you rebuild. You're going to be okay. Jessica broke down crying. I thought I was going to die, just like you almost did, but you're here. You survived. You're helping people. If you can do it, maybe I can too. You can, Sarah assured her, and we'll be here every step of the way. The success of Hannah's Hope attracted media attention. Local news stations featured stories about the foundation. National publications wrote articles about Sarah's journey from victim to advocate, and with that attention came both support and criticism. Some people celebrated Sarah's work, others questioned her motives, suggested she was exploiting her trauma for profit, criticized her partnership with the Hells Angels. You're legitimizing a criminal organization, one op-ed claimed, using your sob story to make bikers look like heroes when they're thugs. Sarah addressed the criticism head-on during a podcast interview. The Hells Angels saved my life when the system failed me, when police who were supposed to protect me instead protected my abuser, when restraining orders were just paper, when nobody else would help. They showed up, they protected me, they got me justice. So yes, I partner with them, because they understand something fundamental. Actions matter more than appearances. The interview went viral, sparking debates about biker culture, domestic violence response, and who gets to be considered a hero. But it also brought more survivors to Hannah's Hope, women who'd been failed by traditional systems, who needed the kind of protection and advocacy that Sarah and the Hells Angels provided. One such woman was Patricia Gomez, a 40-year-old mother of 3, whose husband was a prominent businessman with deep political connections. Patricia had tried for years to leave him, but he'd used his wealth and influence to block her at every turn. He'd convinced judges to deny her custody. He'd gotten restraining orders dismissed. He'd threatened that if she left, she'd never see her children again. I'm trapped, Patricia told Sarah during their first meeting. He's too powerful. Nobody can touch him. "We'll see about that," Sarah said. She called Reaper, explained the situation, and within 48 hours, the Hells Angels had assigned a team to Patricia's case. They documented everything: her husband's abuse, his financial manipulation, his use of private investigators to stalk Patricia, his connections to corrupt officials who looked the other way. They worked with Patricia's lawyer to build an airtight case. They provided protection so Patricia could leave safely with her children. They ensured media coverage so her husband couldn't bury the story. And when Patricia's husband tried to use his connections to intimidate witnesses, the Hells Angels made it very clear: touch this woman or her children, and you'll answer to us. The case took 8 months to resolve, but eventually Patricia won full custody of her children and a divorce settlement that gave her financial independence. Her ex-husband was charged with witness tampering and served 18 months in prison. "You saved my life," Patricia told Sarah at the final hearing, "and my children's lives. How do I ever repay that?" "You pay it forward," Sarah said. "You help the next woman. You break the cycle. That's how we win." Patricia became a volunteer at Hannah's Hope, using her experience to help other women navigate divorces from powerful men. She donated generously, and she spoke publicly about her case, helping to change laws around custody and domestic violence. The foundation grew. Within 3 years of its founding, Hannah's Hope had helped over 300 women escape abusive situations. They'd partnered with Hells Angels chapters in 12 states, creating a network of protection and resources. They'd successfully lobbied for legislative changes that made it easier for abuse victims to get restraining orders and custody of children. Sarah was invited to speak at conferences, consult with police departments on improving domestic violence response, and train medical professionals on identifying abuse. She'd become a nationally recognized advocate, featured in magazines and documentaries. But success brought new challenges. The foundation's rapid growth strained resources. Sarah was working 80-hour weeks, burning out, trying to help everyone. And the constant exposure to trauma, hearing story after story of abuse, was taking a psychological toll. "You need to slow down," Emily warned during one of their dinners. "You're going to collapse if you keep this pace." "I can't slow down," Sarah argued. "There are too many women who need help, and you can't help them if you destroy yourself in the process. You're not superhuman, Sarah. You're allowed to have limits." Reaper echoed the concern during his next visit. "You're doing what I did after Hannah died, trying to save everyone to make up for the one person you couldn't save. But Sarah, you already saved yourself. That's enough. You don't have to save the world. But I can help. I know what it's like. I know how to survive. And that's valuable. But you're one person. You need a team. You need to delegate. You need to take care of yourself so you can keep doing this work long term." Sarah knew they were right. She hired an executive director to handle day-to-day operations. She brought on additional counselors to share the caseload. She started taking weekends off, spending time with Emily, going to therapy regularly, allowing herself to heal instead of constantly reliving trauma through others' stories. It was hard. Sarah had defined herself by her work for so long that stepping back felt like abandoning people. But slowly, she learned that taking care of herself wasn't selfish. It was necessary. She couldn't pour from an empty cup. 5 years after Reaper found Sarah on that desert road, Hannah's Hope held its annual fundraiser, now a major event that raised over $1 million annually. The ballroom was packed with 700 people: survivors, advocates, donors, politicians, and prominently, members from 20 different Hells Angels chapters across the country. Sarah took the stage to thunderous applause. She'd come so far from the broken woman Reaper had found bleeding in the dirt. Now she stood confident, healthy, powerful, living proof that survival was possible, that healing was real, that trauma didn't have to define you. 5 years ago, Sarah began, I was dying. Not just physically, though I was doing that too, but emotionally, spiritually, I'd given up. I believed the lies my abuser told me, that I was worthless, that nobody would help me, that I deserved what was happening. And then an angel appeared. He didn't look like an angel. He looked like someone most people would avoid. But he stopped. He cared. He saved my life. She gestured to Reaper, who stood in the back of the room with his club brothers. Jackson Stone and the Hells Angels taught me something crucial. Heroism doesn't come in the package we expect. The person who saves you might be the one everyone else fears. The help you need might come from the most unlikely source. And that's okay. Accept help wherever it comes from. Don't judge it. Just take it and use it to rebuild. Sarah shared Hannah's hope's impact. Over 600 women helped in 5 years, legislative changes in 8 states, partnerships with law enforcement to improve response to domestic violence, training programs for medical professionals, and a national hotline that had taken over 50,000 calls. None of this would exist without that moment on Highway 50, without Reaper stopping when he could have driven past, without the Hells Angels protecting me when the system failed. This foundation exists because people chose to care, because people chose to act, because people refused to look away from suffering. She announced a new initiative, Hannah's Homes, a program to provide transitional housing for women escaping abuse. The Hells Angels had purchased a building that would be converted into 20 apartments, offering safe housing for up to a year while women rebuilt their lives. "This is just the beginning," Sarah said. "We're expanding, we're growing, and we're proving that survivors don't just survive, we thrive. We transform our pain into purpose, we create change, and we make sure the next generation of women doesn't suffer the way we did." After her speech, Sarah found Reaper outside on the hotel balcony. He was smoking a cigarette, staring at the city lights. "You okay?" Sarah asked. "Yeah, just thinking about Hannah, about how she'd feel seeing this, all these people here because of her story. She'd be proud of you especially. You turned your grief into something beautiful. You've saved so many lives." "We saved lives," Reaper corrected. "You did the hard part. You survived. You testified. You built all this. I just made sure you had backup." Sarah smiled. "You always say that, but it's not true. You didn't just give me backup. You gave me hope. You showed me that good people exist, that I was worth saving, that my life mattered. Without that, I wouldn't be here." They stood in comfortable silence, two people bound by tragedy and healing, unlikely friends who'd found purpose in their pain. "What's next for you?" Reaper asked. "You've built this empire. Where do you go from here?" "I don't know," Sarah admitted. "I've been so focused on the foundation that I haven't thought about my own life. Maybe that's next. Building a life outside of this work, dating, maybe having a family someday, just being Sarah. Not Sarah the survivor or Sarah the advocate, just Sarah." "You deserve that," Reaper said. "You deserve happiness, normal, boring happiness." "What about you? What's next for Jackson Stone?" Reaper shrugged. "Same as always, ride, work, try to help people when I can. Honor Hannah's memory, that's enough for me. You ever think about settling down, finding someone?" "Sometimes, but my life's complicated. The club, the commitment, it's hard for outsiders to understand. And after what happened to Hannah, I'm protective, maybe too protective. I scare off anyone who gets close." "The right person won't be scared off," Sarah said. "They'll see past the leather and the patches to the good man underneath, just like I did." Reaper smiled slightly. "Maybe. We'll see." They returned to the fundraiser, to the celebration of survival and hope and the family they'd built. Not a traditional family, but one bound by shared purpose and mutual respect. Sarah had learned that family came in many forms. Blood family like Emily, chosen family like the other survivors she'd met, and unlikely family like the Hells Angels, who'd protected her when she had no one else. 10 years after the assault, Sarah stood at Hannah's grave with Reaper. It was the anniversary of Hannah's death, and Reaper visited every year, bringing flowers and spending time talking to his sister. "She'd be 34 today," Reaper said quietly. "Sometimes I wonder who she'd be, what she'd have done with her life." "She'd be proud of who you became," Sarah said, "the lives you've saved in her name." The good you've done, that's her legacy. She's still here, still making a difference through you. And through you, Reaper added. Hannah's hope has helped over 1,000 women now. That's 1,000 lives saved. 1,000 women who didn't die alone and forgotten like she did. Sarah placed her own flowers on the grave, a gesture she'd made every year since learning Hannah's story. Thank you, Hannah, for giving your brother the compassion to stop that day, for making him the man who saves people. You saved me too, and I'll spend the rest of my life making sure your story matters. They stood together in the quiet cemetery, two survivors of different tragedies, bound by the determination to ensure no one else suffered unnecessarily. They'd built something beautiful from something horrible. They'd proven that angels come in unexpected forms, and they'd shown the world that the scariest-looking people can have the gentlest hearts. Sarah had learned that you can't judge people by their appearance, their reputation, or society's prejudices. You judge them by their actions. And Reaper's actions, stopping on that desert road, staying through the trial, building a foundation in his sister's name, protecting countless women, those actions defined him as a hero, regardless of how many people crossed the street when they saw him coming. The angel had worn leather, the salvation had come on a Harley, and the most unlikely friendship had changed both their lives forever. The end.